There was an old hotel on the outskirts of the city, said to have held many secrets since its founding in the 19th century. The hotel was almost deserted, frequented only by travelers who had found nowhere else to stay. One cold night, a young man named Sami arrived at the hotel after a long journey, tired and exhausted. Sami entered the hotel lobby and was greeted by an old man with a stern face and strange eyes. He said, "We only have one room available, and that's bedroom number 13. Would you like to rent it?" Sami hesitated for a moment, having heard a lot about the pessimism associated with the number 13. But he was too tired to say, "That's okay, I'll take it." The man gave him the key and warned him, "No matter what sounds you hear at night, don't open the door or leave your bed until morning." Sami went up to the third floor, where room number 13 was located. The corridor was dark and cold, and as he walked, he felt as if eyes were watching him from the shadows. He opened the door to his room, finding it to be a normal room, but a strange smell pervaded the air. He closed the door tightly, stretched out on the bed, and tried to sleep. In the middle of the night, Sami woke up to a faint sound coming from the dark corner of the room. It sounded like a murmur or a cry. He slowly opened his eyes and saw a shadow moving slowly on the wall. Remembering the hotel owner's warning, he tried to ignore the sound and closed his eyes tightly. But the sounds grew louder, and he heard a soft knock on the door, as if someone was asking to enter. His heart began to beat rapidly. Suddenly he heard a whisper close to his ear. "Why did you come here? This isn't your room." Sami froze, not daring to move. The voice kept whispering to him over and over again until he felt the air around him feel chilly, as if someone's breath was close to his face. Many hours passed until sunlight began to filter through the window. The sound faded, and the room returned to its calm. Sami quickly got up and opened the door to find the hotel owner standing in the corridor, staring at him with blank eyes. Sami said in a trembling voice, "What happened here? Who was in the room with me?" The man smiled weakly and said, "Everyone who sleeps in room 13 sees its original occupant, who never left." Sami fled the hotel and never looked back. From that day on, no one dared to sleep in room 13, and the hotel closed its doors. Years passed after Sami's accident, and the hotel was completely deserted. Even the garden was overgrown with wild weeds, and the windows were shattered by the wind and storms. But curiosity never dies. One night, 3 friends, Layla, Abdullah, and Mazen, decided to take an adventure and explore the hotel after hearing its terrifying story. They entered through a broken window, carrying their small flashlights, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They wandered through the hotel lobby, filled with the smell of damp and mold, then climbed the stairs that creaked beneath their feet. They headed straight to the 3rd floor, where room 13 was located. They stood in front of its peeling door, the room number barely visible. Layla pushed the door open slowly, and it opened with a frightening creak. The 3 entered, laughing to hide their true fear. The room was just as Sami had left it years ago. The old bed, the tattered curtains, and a strange shadow in the corner. The friends sat exchanging stories, but Abdullah noticed the shadow in the corner growing deeper and darker. Suddenly, Layla felt an intense chill pass around her and said in a trembling voice, "Did you feel that cold air? It's like someone is passing between us." Mazen laughed and said, "Just my imagination. Don't be afraid." But suddenly, the door slammed shut by itself. They tried to open it, but it was locked tightly. Mysterious sounds began to fill the room. Whispers, crying, and knocking on the walls. The friends tried to hold on, but the shadow in the corner began to move, slowly creeping toward them. A pale face appeared in the darkness, its eyes sunken, its voice like wind. "Why did you come back? This room belongs to no one but me." Layla screamed, and Abdullah tried to break the window to escape, but the glass did not shatter. Mason suddenly felt something pressing against his chest, and he could no longer breathe. At that moment, they heard footsteps in the corridor. It was the old man in the hotel, but he looked older and paler. He said from behind the door, "You can't leave until the story is complete." The walls began to bleed black, and the room spun around them. Then, suddenly, they found themselves lying on the grass outside the hotel, gasping for air, having been gone for minutes or perhaps hours. When they looked around, the hotel had disappeared, as if nothing had ever been there. But when they returned home, the voices kept whispering in their ears every night. "Room 13 hasn't been locked yet." Days passed, and Layla, Abdullah, and Mason couldn't sleep. Each night, they heard whispers and crying. Sometimes, a black shadow would suddenly appear in the corners of their room and then disappear, leaving behind an indescribable chill and fear. The three friends gathered at Layla's house, unable to bear what was happening to them alone. They sat in the living room, talking in low voices. "I can't take it anymore," Layla said, sobbing. "Every night, I hear my name called from the darkness. I see strange faces in the mirror. The same thing happens to me. Whenever I close my eyes, I feel someone approaching my bed." Mason said, trembling, "We have no choice but to go back to the hotel. We must face what happened and end this curse." And indeed, the next night, they returned to the spot where the hotel had been. They found nothing but a barren plot of land, but the shadow of the building would appear whenever the wind blew or clouds covered the moon. They approached the place, and suddenly an old wooden door appeared before them, as if floating in the air. They opened the door and entered, only to find themselves back in the same dark corridor, as if the hotel had come back to life just for them. They ascended to the third floor, where the door to room 13 awaited them, wide open. They entered the room cautiously. It was empty except for a large mirror on the wall. In it, they saw a strange reflection. Not only did they see themselves, but they also saw a pale man standing behind them, his eyes completely black. The man said in a gloomy voice, "Everyone who enters this room carries a part of my torment with them. The curse will not end until the secret of my death is revealed." The friends looked at each other, and suddenly the room was filled with overlapping images. A man being killed in the room by his friend, out of jealousy and greed more than 100 years ago. His soul found no peace and remained trapped in room 13. Layla cried out, "How do we end the curse?" The man replied, "Find my bones and bury them with a letter of forgiveness for my killer." Suddenly, they found themselves in the hotel's basement, where they discovered a worn wooden floor. They dug until they found a small box containing bone remains and an old letter written in dried blood. Mason read the letter with a trembling voice, and they buried the bones and the letter under an old tree in front of the hotel. When they did, they felt a relief they had never known before, and the voices and shadows disappeared forever. The friends finally returned home, freed from the curse of room 13. But far away, in another city, there was an old hotel, and room 13, waiting for its new story. Finally, thank you for following, and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. If you like it, I will tell you more.